Why do you feel stuck? Why isn't your business growing? Well, it could be one of these mistakes that I see in so many creative businesses. I'm going to help you avoid these mistakes, so we're going to dive right into them so that you can notice them when they come up and then avoid them and get unstuck. Welcome to Explore Your Enthusiasm, episode 301 with me, Tara Swigert. If you missed the 300th episode extravaganza celebration where Jay came in and asked me your questions, we talked about my business journey, how I plan my week, even my coffee order. Go back and have a listen. Scroll back in whatever listening app you're using and listen to 301. It's a really good kind of introduction to my business story. If you haven't heard it, if you didn't listen to episode 1, 6 years later, you can listen to me describe it in episode 300. So you can also find the video over on my site. We are quite adorable, and Jay did some very funny editing that you'll only see in the video. That's at taraswigert.com/podcast300. And you're also going to find show notes for this episode at taraswigert.com/podcast301. I'm going to link up lots of other podcast episodes, lots of resources. You can find links to all of it at taraswigert.com/podcast301. I've been working with product makers, yarn dyers, bag sewers, jewelry makers, and designers like knitwear designers, sewing pattern designers, and shop owners, a lot of yarn shop owners, for over a decade. I've been getting up close and personal with them in my community, the Starship, since 2011, like really learning about their goals, their dreams, their profit margins, what works and what doesn't, since 2011. So I've seen a lot of what holds us back in our business and what to do in order to move forward. If you want to avoid the 3 mistakes that creatives make in actually running their business, like in what they do, mistakes in what they do, check out my free workshop, The 4 Foundations to a Thriving Business. It starts out by diving into the 3 mistakes that I see so many makers make when it comes to the actual hands-on running of their business. In that workshop, I explain what the mistakes are and how to avoid them, how to learn what you need to learn or do what you need to do in order to avoid the mistakes. You'll find that workshop at taraswigert.com/foundations or linked up in today's show notes. Just look below this video and you'll find a link to that workshop. Now, real quick before we get into it, this is not about shaming you. If you recognize yourself in the mistakes I'm about to talk about, that's okay. That's actually a good thing. Realizing you're making the mistake is the first step to fixing the mistake. So there's no shame about making any of these mistakes. I'm not making fun of you if you make these mistakes. You don't beat yourself up if you're making these mistakes. There's no shame. There's just learning and changing and growing going forward. Okay? So if you recognize yourself, fix it, but don't beat yourself up over it. Mistake number 1. Waiting for everything to be ready before you move forward in your business. Now, the quick solution to this, I'm going to jump right into the solution, is to recognize that everything will never be ready. Waiting for things to fall in line, waiting for the timing to be right, waiting for the technology to all work will leave you waiting for the rest of your life. Whether it's starting your business or it's moving forward on your next product launch or it's trying something totally new, the time is never going to be right, ever. The sooner you realize that and embrace it, the faster you can move forward and the more your business can learn and change and grow. It's not ever going to be right. So one of the first questions I got last week in episode 300 was how much of my journey had I planned or if I just kind of went through with the flow. And the truth is I had no idea where my business would go when I started it. I didn't even know I was starting a business that would pay our bills when I first started selling yarn. I could have never even imagined the kind of work I do today. I could have never even imagined the technology that allows me to talk to you. I think I started listening to podcasts in 2007, 2008, and there was no way I was ever going to be able to make one of those. And now the idea that there's YouTube and I can make one, that's crazy. I could have never imagined the kind of life I would have today when I got started. So there is no plan that you can have for what your customers are going to want from you in 2 years or 5 years. You can only show up today and listen to your customers and learn and make changes. And you're going to learn through trial and error over and over and over again. And that's frustrating, but it's true of every business. So nothing will ever be ready because you're not going to know any of these things until you get started. You're not going to know what you need to learn until you need to learn it. So you've got to get started before you're ready. Now, if you're waiting for your plan to be perfect, The problem is you're going to get really attached to it. If you wait for a perfect plan and then you're like, okay, it's perfect, I'm ready to implement it, everything will be great, then you're going to think it's too perfect to change and adapt. And you're going to be real disappointed when parts of it fail, because parts of it will absolutely fail. That's what it is to have a business. A perfect plan that you wait for is actually doomed to fail and end in fiery explosions. If you get started today with what you have and you do what you can, and you just keep that attitude throughout it, then you're never going to think this is too perfect to change. I worked too hard to make this plan for me to change any part of it. You're going to be flexible. You're going to be willing to change. And that is how your business succeeds. So mistake number one is waiting for everything to be ready, for the technology, for the timing, for your time in your life. Like, that's just not going to happen. Mistake number two is waiting for you to be ready. Because guess what? You're never going to feel ready. I can tell you this, after being in business for over a decade, I still don't feel ready to do what I'm going to do. Tonight, I'm teaching my first class of foster parents that I'm training. I don't feel ready. I've prepared, I've done work, I've learned, I've gone to trainings, I've studied, but who am I to do it? Right? You might never feel like you are the perfect person and you are perfectly ready, and that is okay. You may never feel ready. That's fine, because you're allowed to build a business before you do feel ready. Now, I'd love for you to grow in confidence and self-acceptance, so you think like, I am good enough to have this business, but you don't got to wait for that day. You can start right now. Because just like your business is going to learn and grow based on the feedback you get and what works and what doesn't, you are going to learn and grow. You are going to become the person you need to be in order to have the business you have. You're going to learn how to become the person you need to become by doing stuff, by taking the action that your business needs. You'll learn the skills, the abilities, the mindsets to become the kind of amazing business owner. This is a problem I see a lot, is that people who want to have a business or want their business to grow listen to podcasts, they read books, they think a lot about one day they'll become that kind of person, and they just wait to like become that person. All of those people that you admire who are doing it started first. They did stuff to become that person. Any like career or area or arena of success. Beyonce did not wait till she was as fabulous as Beyonce. She started singing as a teenager and became fabulous through her life experiences. If you really feel like you're not good at doing things, you're like, well, I need to do the actions, but I'm never good at getting anything done, I have news for you. You do not need to wait until you're better at following through. You need a plan to follow through. You need to get the support that you, the person you are, needs in order to follow through. That's probably what's been missing, is that you don't have the support in place for you to actually follow through your plan. That's another thing we talk about in the foundations webinar, is like one of the foundations is a plan for following through. You need a plan that is built to serve who you actually are, not who you wish you were. For real. I'm going to say it again. You need a plan for who you actually are, not who you wish you were. This is why I talk about the 4 tendencies and personality theories so much. And if you don't know what the 4 tendencies are, head over to episode 122 to learn more about how you can use that framework to get more done. Or you can go to taraswagger.com/podcast 122. Linked up in the show notes, of course. So if you know how to get done your best work, if you know how you react to internal and external expectations, you can then make a plan that works for you. So if you know you need to have accountability, then you can get accountability in place to get things done. If you know you need to work from a list, then make a list and work from it. If you know you need to know all the reasons why you should do something before you do it, well, that's actually part of my teaching method. I'm a questioner myself, and so I try to answer all of the why questions in my teaching, along with telling you how to do it. Find the support that will work for you. Find the resources, the teachers, the accountability, the programs that will help you follow through on your plan. Don't wait to be ready. Decide you're ready enough, embrace who you really are, and create a plan that works for you. Mistake number 3. Being afraid of other people's opinions. Now, I feel this one deeply, which is why I've already done several podcast episodes around approval and disapproval. If you go back, you can listen to them in episode 270 and 271. You can also find them linked up in the show notes, but that's 270 and 271. I talk about approval and disapproval and being afraid. And most of us get stuck in this mistake from time to time. This isn't just something that happens at the beginning of your business. It happens all throughout your business. Whether we're just starting or we've been in business for a decade, we get tangled up in what other people are going to think about what we're doing. Now, when makers join my free Facebook group, which I find at facebook.com/group/Tara. It's called the Confident and Profitable Handmade Business. When they join that, I ask them what's holding you back. And you're going to be relieved to know that over a quarter of them say some version of fear of what other people are thinking, fear of what other people are doing, feeling not good enough. So you're not alone in this. But just like all the other mistakes, this one can be changed by changing your beliefs. First step, realize other people aren't thinking about you nearly as much as you are thinking about you, which is a good thing. Like, you're running your life, other people aren't paying that much attention. And one way to ask yourself this is, how often do you spend judging other people's behaviors and actions? How closely are you following other people's businesses? There's probably a small circle of people you really care about the decisions they make, like your kids, your partners, your closest friends. You care about them because you care about them. Like, you care about the decisions because you care about them. But that's a small group of people. It's not everybody on the internet, right? Very few people are thinking about what you're doing and judging you. And hopefully, everybody in that small circle who is thinking cares deeply about you and wants what's best for you. If not, then why do you care what their opinion is? If there's someone who doesn't want what's best for you, if there's someone who doesn't care to support you in you following your dream, why are we listening to them? That's like, would you tell your kid, hey, you should pay attention to the meanest person at your school? Of course not. You should pay attention to your biggest cheerleader. The second way to think about this is, do you even know they disapprove? Do you know for sure? Is it something you've made up in your head that they'll disapprove if you do this? There are all kinds of things that I was certain that people in my life wouldn't approve of. I talk to them about it. I find out they don't care at all. Of course, I always wait to talk to them about it until it's like been months of me agonizing. Then you find out they don't. They're like, okay, that's cool. Like, they don't care. They don't disapprove. To go back to it, if they love and support you, they likely aren't feeling as judgy about you as you're feeling about yourself. If you know you have their disapproval, there's somebody you actually care about their opinion, the question to ask is, do you want to stay where you are? Do you want to stay frozen by their perceived opinions? Or are you ready to let go of it and move on? Do you want to live your life based on what you think other people think of you? Or do you want to live your life based on what you think of you? So a lot of times we put opinions in the mouths or minds of others that we are truly thinking about ourselves. So you need to work on that. You need to work on your own thoughts about what you're doing and ask yourself, is this true? If I think if I do this, I'll fail and nobody will love me, is that true? Probably not. If you think other people are going to think you're being too salesy, ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Usually it's some form of rejection. And when you really think about it, you realize nobody you care about is going to give you any of that. The people who do are people you're not going to live your life based on. I really, really hope that you're not going to live your life based on what stranger comments on the internet are going to say about something you do. Because remember, not that many people are paying attention anyhow. So the percentage of those comments you get are going to be very, very, very small. I can list on one hand the number of negative comments I've gotten in my life. Some of those weren't even directly at me. I just found them someplace else, so I never even needed to see them. And I've been doing this for over a decade. And yes, I don't have 1 million followers. Maybe if I had 1 million, there'd be a lot more negative people. But I've built a life and paid my bills since 2009 running a business. And I've had super few negative comments. So your fear of other people's opinion is often far greater than the reality of what's going to happen. And it's usually aimed at people you don't want to listen to anyhow. There you have it. These are 3 mistakes that I see creatives making all the time in the way they're thinking about their business that holds them back from going where they want to go. The next step for you is to see if you're making these mistakes, work on moving around them, given the examples and solutions I've given, and then look at the mistakes you're making actually running your business. Are you making some of the main mistakes in running your business, like not knowing your numbers, not having a plan, not having a clear marketing message? You can find out more about those mistakes and how to defeat them, crush them, get rid of them in my free workshop, The 4 Foundation Method. So you can find that at taraswiger.com/foundations. It'll be linked up wherever you're watching this, like below, wherever you're watching this, and it'll be over in my show notes, taraswiger.com/podcast301. You can always find links to everything I mentioned along with the written version of this show over on my website, taraswiger.com. Next week, we're going to talk about how to make decisions to move your business forward and get unstuck from wherever you are. Make sure you've subscribed so you don't miss an episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I wish you a very enthusiastic, joyful week.